Welcome to the new Last Movie Outpost reviews, now with 100% more green screen. Look, it's all I can afford, all right? Just can we just cut to the just cut to the intro. So I just saw DrSleep, the sequel to Stephen King's The Shining. Or is it Stanley Kubrick's The Shining? See, the problem is that The Shining, the book, is very different than The Shining, the movie. Specifically, the themes, I think, and the nature of what Kubrick was trying to show versus what Stephen King was trying to show. And those of you who've read the book, you know that the Overlook explodes at the end. So, if that's a problem for you, you may not like this movie if you really like the book. So the book was never Stephen King's. The movie, at least over the book, was something that Stephen King never really liked. So I mean, he did his own 1997 miniseries, and I thought it was pretty atrocious. He approved it because it's more to the way the book was, but I don't know. It's just not very good. So the question is, he wrote DrSleep, and and this movie adheres to it fairly well, but is it as good as, say, well, I haven't read the book, so I really don't know. Is it as good as the book? I don't know. I've read through the Wikipedia on the differences between the book and the movie, and from what I could tell, most of the differences lie in the fact that, one, the Overlook is gone in the book, so they have to go to an empty campground, basically, where it's still haunted. And two, there's a lot of information in the book about people that are diseased, that have the Shining. So if you have like cancer or something, that will affect some of what happens in there. That is not in this movie. So the movie itself, I feel like, is more of a sequel to the movie The Shining, with but it uses the groundwork laid into the book. So get started. It happens right days after, or months after, what happened in the Overlook in 1980. And a little girl gets taken by, we'll call them vampires. They're basically vampires. That's what they are. And they want to, they feed off of people who have the Shining. In the meantime, Danny and his mother, who's played really well, she does a pretty darn good Wendy Torrance impression, the way Shelley Duvall did. It was pretty surprising. And the little boy is the spitting image of the original. And they kind of have to deal a little bit with the aftermath, and the ghosts keep coming to try to feed on him. I guess they can leave the Overlook now, and they're going after him because he's got the Shining. So, fine, well, and good. He's still communicating with Dick Halloran, who's played by Carl Lumbly, and he does a pretty good job of playing Scatman Crothers back in the day. None of them try to put on impressions of the actors. They try to play the characters as true as they possibly can, and I would say they do a really good job. I was rather impressed by how good a job they did. So the Danny learns that you could stick these ghosts into a box in his mind, I guess, or he comes up with the box with the Shining, and the ghost gets stuck in there, and he learns how to take them out. And the first time you see that old lady ghost from room 227, she's in his bathroom, and the kid's just terrified and pisses all over himself. And when he learns how to deal with it, he kind of gets his courage back, and it sounds like he's going to be okay. Then you cut to 2011, and Danny is now Ewan McGregor, who, by the way, does a top-notch job in this movie. In fact, I think all the actors do a really good job in this movie, and I think it elevates it from some of the shortcomings, because Ewan McGregor, there's a reason why he's the bright spot in the prequels. The man he's really, really good, and he plays this broken guy who's drinking and angry and hits people, and he's basically kind of turned into his father, mostly because of what his father did to him. So Danny finally has had enough. He realizes he's at rock bottom, and so he ends up in this little town, and a guy takes a shine to him, no pun intended, who kind of helps him, gets him into Alcoholics Anonymous, and gets him on the straight and narrow. And because of the connection he makes in Alcoholics Anonymous, he's able to go to get a job as an orderly, which he had worked at in the past. And as an orderly, he will use his shine for the first time in many, many years to talk to elderly patients who it's their last day on earth, and they got one of those cats that knows when it's going to die, and will sit with them before they go, and then they'll move on and do the he'll move in and he'll stay with them and be the last person and give them comfort, and it's really kind of nice. So in the meantime, a little girl, and I was a little, and this is one of the weak points, I don't know exactly where she was from. They kind of bounce back and forth geographically, and if you weren't paying attention, and because it looks like it was all shot in the same place, it's kind of hard to tell. Are you in Florida? Are you in New Hampshire? Where are you? I don't know. I don't know that it's that important. But this little girl, she has the shining. She's really, really powerful. In the meantime, these vampires, and that's what they are. They're complete and utter vampires. They're the only difference between them and regular vampires is that they don't suck blood, they suck shine. They call it steam, and they live a very long time. They can be killed, like a vampire can be killed, and they call it, even they show like the lady finds somebody that's shining, but they have a power that is useful to them, so instead of killing her, they turn her, and it literally is some sort of physical change. It's not really outwardly appearance, but it does do something to them that when they die, they just evaporate into steam, and then but they live a long, long time, and they stay young. They don't live forever, but they do live a very, very long time. And Rebecca Ferguson, I think it is, she plays Rose the Hat, and she's very good in this as well. So they are traipsing around the country killing people, and they find this boy in Iowa, and he's got a little bit of the shine because he can hit a baseball really well, probably because he's reading the mind of the pitcher. He probably doesn't even know how good he is. So they come and they kill him and take his shine, and the scene is really horrific. And I mean, it's not that gruesome, but it is terrifying. And I was pretty impressed by how uncomfortable I was in watching this poor kid, who also did a very good job in just being frightened and dying. He was crying, and he reacted like a little kid would. So when the little girl, who's really, really powerful, senses this, she flakes out, and and Dan hears her. And I guess I kind of missed this part, but they had kind of been pen pals. He had this, where he lived, they had the paint that you paint the wall and it becomes a chalkboard. And she was using her shine to write on the chalkboard, and he was writing back. And they kind of talked to each other that way, and were kind of friends, sort of, from afar. But then she when she freaked out and felt this kid in Iowa being killed, she just blasted murder onto the chalkboard and broke it. You've probably seen that in some of the trailer. So this is a very long movie, so that's why it's taking me so long to get through this. And there is spoilers. I'm just gonna, if you didn't know that now, I mean, I've got it up in the title, but just know that. So they keep, they try to find what these vampires are, and these vampires are able to travel mindscapes and that kind of thing. And they finally get them all together, track them down, and kill them all, except for two of them. One of them gets the little girl, and the other one is waiting for them. Well, they managed to kill him, but now the head lady, this Rose the Hat, she takes all the steam. They actually, when they do the shining, or take the shining from somebody, what they call steam, they actually put it in thermoses. And then she takes all that they've saved up, and she just supercharges herself. And so Danny and Abra, which is the little girl, know that they can't take her on alone. So they decide to go to the Overlook, because Danny knows is that place, it's dangerous for people who shine. So their idea is that'll be dangerous for her. Long story short, they get her there. He releases the ghosts out of the boxes that he'd been trapping all those years. They all kill her, but then they kill him, and then she gets away, and then she communicates to him, his ghost, afterwards. So in the book, he does not die. In the movie, he does die. So I'm wrapping it all up in a nutshell. So what I like and what I dislike. What I liked was, I think they did a pretty good job with the atmosphere and the dread. One thing about The Shining, when I saw The Shining when I was a kid, there was an absolute sense of dread to the whole thing. And in this one, I think he captured that pretty well. The performances are all top notch. One of the things I saw was like, well, they changed the little girl to be black. Here's the thing about that: there are characters that whose identity and race are close together, and you can't change that. And there are other characters when it's all about the culture. So like Black Panther, you can't change him to a white guy or an Asian guy. You just can't. An African prince, that would be ridiculous. And Superman, you can't change from a white guy. In fact, you can't even change his hair color. He couldn't even be blonde. He's got to be what he is. It's a very distinctive look. Red Letter Media once said it's like, the difference between Jim Kirk and Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones, could you have Indiana Jones without the hat and the jacket and the whip? You say no. That's who Indiana Jones is. You say Jim Kirk, could he have something besides the gold shirt? It's like, yeah, he's had all kinds of uniforms. He's a fully formed character. Indiana Jones is an archetype. So the costume is a big part of his character. There is a certain logic in that where you say the skin color is part of the costume. The race may be part of the costume. The American culture, though, is a very diverse culture that has a way of going, especially like a suburban neighborhood culture, that is the same way irrespective of race. So changing this little girl's skin color doesn't make any difference in the world, because her character is about being an American girl growing up in the suburbs. And that, to America's credit, in my opinion, doesn't require a certain skin color. So that is one of those where it doesn't bother me at all, because the skin color is not important to the character itself. So that's one thing. She did a good job as an actress, I think, and it was really interesting. I was trying to figure out where it was going to go. Now, granted, I have a little bit of bias because I love The Shining. I wanted to see where it was going to go. So they get to the end, and they get to the Overlook, And this is where it falls apart to me. This is where you're like, oh, we're going to the Overlook. We're going to see it all again. Here's the problem. You ever gone through a haunted house twice where all the things that are pre-programmed come out, and they come out and you know they're going to come out, and they do their thing, and you realize they're just pre-programmed. There's no initiative, there's no motive, there's no plan, there's no thought behind them, just there to scare you. And that's what they turned the ghosts into, in my opinion. They all did their thing. They became guns. That's what they became. They became weapons to do their thing, and they all had their like the one guy, he's got the blood coming out. He goes, he's holding up his cup, right? He's like, wonderful party, right? It's like, that's really creepy in The Shining when it's completely outside of what you expected it to be. When it's just him with the entire group of ghosts standing there, you're like, yeah, great part, whatever. It's completely out of context, and suddenly all the ghosts, the little girls, all of them, it looks silly as hell. It's so out of context, and it doesn't work. Up until then, it was doing okay. So they get to the Overlook. The first thing Danny has to do, he says, I have to turn it on. I have to wake it up. So he goes in, and all the power starts coming on. Okay. Lights start coming on. Okay. And he goes into where they used to live in the hotel, and the door is still smashed open where Jack had hit the axe and everything. So he goes down, he looks at all that, I guess, memories. Still says Red Drum on the door, all that. And then he goes down to the bar where Jack met Lloyd in the first one. And this time he meets Lloyd, except Lloyd is his dad. But he keeps saying, I'm Lloyd. I think you're mistaken. He keeps trying to offer him a drink because, just like before, Danny's an alcoholic. He's no longer an alcoholic. And he has kind of a heart-to-heart with his dad, realizes what a shit his dad was. And that was a nice tie-up to that whole thing. I really enjoyed that moment. And by the way, Jack Nicholson is being played by Henry Thomas, who starred in E.T. a mere 2 years after the original Shining. So I don't know what that means, but it's weird. I just found it weird. But he did a pretty good job of being young Jack Torrance. He was not Jack Nicholson. He was Jack Torrance. So that I liked. But then they went in and they tried to have a kind of a mind battle. And this is where, is this a superhero battle? Because all the people with Shining have different powers. And it's a little odd, but they have this battle of the minds in the mindscape, and the mindscape is the hedge maze, the snowy hedge maze, and the girl keeps running in and cutting the bad lady, but the bad lady proves to be too powerful, and she kicks him out. They try to put her in the box, and it doesn't work out. And then he just releases all the ghosts, and it turns into a weird zombie movie, and it's bad. The ending is bad. That part of it anyway, how they get her. I just, maybe it's not a bad idea, but I don't like the way it was executed. It fell flat to me, and it made all the ghosts look silly. He uses this to go to the boiler, and he blows it up, and just before he dies, he sees his mom, who had died many years before it was found out, and they hug, and he's a little boy again, and then he's dead. So yeah, that's the movie. I didn't hate this. I really didn't hate this. Was it a little long? Yeah, it was a little long. It was a little drawn out, but there were some parts of me that actually really appreciated that they took the time to show a little bit. It wasn't like Danny is a recovering alcoholic and he tells the story to somebody of everything that happened in his entire life. You got to see all that, and that takes time to unwrap. So I was okay with that. I didn't feel like I was I was losing a lot of time, but it did take a while for things to finally get to where they needed to go. And I think there are some trims that could be happening here and there. And then that ending, I can understand why. I think it was Billy. Let me look. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one of you guys reviewed it. I'm pretty sure it was Billy, and I get why he was so disappointed, because the ending is a bit of nostalgia bait, and it just doesn't work, and it doesn't bring home the things that I think happened in the movie. So, or I'm sorry, in the book. It's too reliant on what happened in The Shining. The thing I liked about the original Shining is that it was very ambiguous, and this has tried to explain too many things, in my opinion. So your mileage may vary. I give it a 3.5 stars out of 5. Not a superlative. Could have been better. The ending really hurts it. But I appreciate that the story was not a rehash of the original story. It wasn't like, well, I got to take the family up again and do it again. It wasn't anything like that. It was okay. It could have been better. It does. You know what this is? This is a missed opportunity. It's not terrible. It's not complete shit. But it does feel like a missed opportunity. Like they were missing that one ingredient that could have made it much better. And I don't know how they do it. Maybe it's the way they execute how the ghosts are. I mean, at one point, Rebecca Ferguson, she comes into the hotel, and she looks over to the side, and there's the blood elevators. And she just kind of smiles and moves on. And all I could think of was Mr. Burns in The Simpsons. And I'll put it right up here.
That's odd. Usually the blood gets off at the second floor.
There you go. So that's what I was thinking. And I don't know what they were thinking. Because it made all these things that were so creepy and so ambiguous and so mystifying, they suddenly became rote. You got to put it in the blood elevator. Why? I mean, if there's no purpose to it, if it's just going to look weird, then I don't know. I mean, is it just nostalgia bait? Why put all these imagery in there if they don't have any real purpose and they don't really pertain to the rest of the story? Because I think the rest of the story was really, really good, really intriguing. They didn't rely on jump scares. I appreciate that. So again, 3 out of 5 stars. Your mileage may vary. I'm Drunken Yoda. Thank you for watching. Leave us a comment and a like and everything below. I hope you like our new green screen sets. Let me know what you think. What did you hate it like Billy did, or did you find it kind of intriguing, a missed opportunity, or did you really like it? I wanted to like it more than I did, and maybe I've been pretty hard on some movies, so check out Terminator Dark Fate, but I just can't be that hard on this. I felt it was not that bad and wished it was a little bit better. So you want to watch something, it's certainly worth a rental at the very least. I wish it was doing a little bit better in the theaters, but I can understand why it's not. So we'll see. Clank. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video. So I just saw Dr. King's The Shining, which doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know what that was.